Good morning and welcome back. You're watching World Talks here on TVP World. The news of North Korean soldiers being transferred to Russia to fight in its war against Ukraine has spread like wildfire. Washington says 10,000 North Korean troops have been deployed for possible action against Ukrainian forces. What does it mean for Ukraine? Can we speak of an escalation of the conflict? To discuss, I have Kira Rudik, Ukrainian MP, Holos party, joining me right now. Good morning, Kira. Delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me.
So, apparently, according to Ukrainian intelligence, some North Korean troops are already fighting in Ukraine. I mean, a small number of them. So, let me start with what Volodymyr Zelensky said. He said it's an obvious step towards escalation and, that it stands in contrast to the disinformation campaign by the Kremlin that we heard from the Kremlin in recent days. So, what is your take on this? Are we seeing an escalation of the conflict and broadening of the conflict?
It is indeed an escalation, and I totally support the statement of our President Zelensky on that. We know that the confirmation that North Korean soldiers are fighting with our army, this confirmation has been shared with many intelligences, and the leaders of the democratic countries have already confirmed that they have this information. What is very disturbing for us that there is not a feedback on that. And President Biden just said that he is very concerned. We have heard many other leaders saying that, including Mark Rutte, saying, yes, this is an unfortunate event and NATO condemns it. But let me be very, very clear. Condemnation, angry emails, and angry statements are not helping to win the war. What we need is very clear: additional weapons, resources, and permission to use the Western weapons to hit inside Russia's territory.
Right.
Look, Russia is not obeying to any rules, to any agreements. They are doing what they have intention for and what they have planned for. And they have their allies, North Korea, Iran, and China. And the Western world right now is delaying because of the political instability and the elections in the United States.
Right, Kira, and actually speaking about weapons, perhaps this could be a moment, a good moment, opportune moment to push for the removal of restrictions on the use of US-provided weapons so that Ukraine can use these long-range weapons inside Russia. I believe that statements like this have been floated perhaps by the Pentagon, if I'm not mistaken, that, this removal is an option.
Well, we really hope that this will be a strong enough argument to get this decision. However, given the state of the US politics and that it's next week when the US elections are happening, we do not believe that decisions like that may happen within the next couple of days. And many people will die. Russia continues to attack us every single night. Like this night, there was an attack on Kyiv, attack on Kharkiv. Russia hit yet again a residential building, collapsing it and having people underneath the rubble. We know at least of 17 people who are injured right now, and there are more to come because our rescue services are working on it. Can you believe living under this terror and having to beg for the help just to survive every single day? So these delays for us means that more and more people will lose their lives because of the hesitance of the democratic leader of getting us what we need to defend ourselves.
Right. I mean, the U.S. elections is just around the corner, so perhaps things will clarify after that. But one thing that, also stems from the fact that these North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia and, of course, and then to Ukraine, is the fact that Zelensky plans to draft further 160,000 Ukrainian troops, right? So I wonder how viable is this plan, because we know how difficult it is to get people to go and fight. And are you expecting some resistance from the society?
The main thing, while there are issues with having people conscripted to the army, is that they are afraid that they will be facing the enemy empty-handed. And the news about additional 160,000 that we need to get onto the front line comes with the news that only 10% of the promised weapons and support from the United States have arrived. Honestly, I didn't hear these numbers before, and it was really, really devastating, because for people who understand that they will be fighting for their country It is incredibly hard to accept that they may be just sitting in the trenches and waiting for the aid to be delivered, and this aid will never come. And this is why, to help us to do our part better, we are urging our partners to deliver on their promises. 10% is not only even 50%, right? It's like less than nothing. And this is so devastating, because the question is, what is the stopping? Like, is it the bureaucratic issues? Are those logistical issues? Are those political issues? Because I know there is one person who is applauding to these news that there is only 10% of the US support coming to Ukraine. It's Vladimir Putin. And obviously, after the BRICS summit, Putin and his allies are feeling very strong and very confident in the strategies that they have taken. They start the war of aggression, and then they look how the West reacts. We need to shift things. We need to start playing as number one and not the number two, to create the agenda, to help Ukraine win the war, rather than constantly responding to Russia's aggression. Russia kills some of our people, creates additional attack, and then the West reacts. It needs to be the reverse order, and then we can win the war.
Right, Kira, and could you please clarify this for me? Because you're speaking of delays in deliveries of weapons. And of course, we hear various pledges almost constantly, right? So I guess someone listening to this news could have an idea that these weapons are being delivered. So what is the picture on the ground? What are these delays? I mean, what weapons are you still expecting to get this year, and what is needed? If you could paint us a picture.
Our critical need has and always has been is first air defense systems to protect our homes, and we have been begging for them since the day one, and every time we're hearing that they're somewhere en route. And second point is, of course, the ammunition. So you can have the weapons, but without the ammunition you will not be able to be effective. And there has been many plans and many great initiatives of getting us enough of the ammunitions, but all of these plans are still somewhere in works. And the number that I was referring to was the statement by President Zelensky regarding the initial promise of the United States this year that we were expecting on getting us both the necessary munitions, but also the air defense systems. And we are so grateful for everything that we are receiving from different countries on their plans. But the fact is that if these deliveries are not straightforward enough, are not fast enough, then we may not live up to receiving them.
Right, and also on the note of weapons, I believe that South Korea is not delivering weapons as of now. However, it seems that it could be back on the table because North Korea could get could enhance its capabilities thanks to Russian technologies being delivered to North Korea. So, are you expecting South Korea to change its stance when it comes to providing Ukraine with weapons?
Absolutely, we do. We have expected that South Korea will change its stance since last year, when first North Korean missiles were used in the war, and we had the confirmations, and they were very open to the international community, that missiles that were hitting our territory were manufactured in North Korea. And we were saying, like, look, we have the same enemy, and they are allied with our enemy, and they are killing us. So it's, of course, unfortunate that it takes time for the political decisions being made, but we hope that the absolute fact that North Korean troops are fighting in the war on Russia's side will be the argument enough for our South Korean partners to change the decisions and make sure that they are supporting us and delivering us the weapons and supplies that we so desperately need.
Kira, one more thing. Recently, Volodymyr Zelensky also mentioned India as a country that could perhaps put pressure on Russia, one of its allies. So I wonder, I mean, what other countries is Zelensky looking to now? I mean, for some form of support. Will we see some change in his diplomatic offensive, perhaps, towards other countries?
The goal of all of us, not only President Zelensky, but all Ukrainians and all parliamentarians and all politicians, is to get as wide support as we can. So we are working with Brazil, we are working with India, we are working with Argentina, we are working with all the European countries, we are working with African countries, because we know that the pressure needs to be worldwide. And it's not that easy to persuade some of the countries that were very much far away from the war before. This is why our goal is to use any opportunity to persuade people that the war of aggression is the threat to the global security, and it's the threat to everyone, not only just for Ukraine. We are fighting against the precedent that in 21st century, one country can annex the territory of another one, commit all kinds of the war crimes, and get away with it. And we are getting the traction. Unfortunately, it is very slow, but we keep working, and we are asking all of our friends and allies to keep with us, to stand with us.
All right, Kira, and just sort of one last question to sort of sum up our discussion. I mean, winter is, of course, starting just very, very soon. So my question is, what does Ukraine want to accomplish, and I also mean the front lines here, before the onset of winter, which will, of course, slow down anything that goes on?
So right now we are holding our front. And we are desperately trying to protect the remainders of our energy infrastructure. The majority of it has been destroyed by Russia. So it's a very hard decision for our forces on how to make sure that we get into this winter without giving Russia an ability to move forward. Again, the hold off is on the amount of the weapons, ammunition, and air defense systems. And we are very open about that the fact like in which situation we will enter the winter months solely depends on how quickly we will get what is necessary delivered to the front line. This is why it's still October, last day of October. We are urging each and every person who is watching us and who is hearing us to speed up the delivery of the weapons and the supplies.
Kira Rudik, Ukrainian MP, thank you so much for being with us this morning and for your insights on this very, very important topic.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.